Alright, hello students, and welcome to English 102. This first video, I like to create video guides to help my students out, especially the ones who are like me and who are visual learners. But my videos are actually going to be good for everybody to watch, because there are pretty much every video is going to have little tidbits in it that will be stuff that you won't see anywhere else. Hints and tips and stuff from me. So everybody should watch them, okay? But that said, let me go in to get right into this first one. So let me get my picture out of the way. And this first video is basically just to introduce you to the new eCampus Ultra. If you are familiar with eCampus, this should be a pretty easy transition because it's not terribly different. I mean, yes, it's visually different. Instead of having the stuff over here on the left like it used to have, it's up here now. But it's still pretty easy to navigate and negotiate. Okay, so your first thing you have is your content, which you will of course be primarily interacting with more than probably anything else. And that part is going to be where you're going to see your lessons, your modules every week. Now right now I've got this in student view so that I can see what you see. And right now you should only be able to see what I've got up here. On the first day of class, which of course may or may not be today, but on the first day of class, you will actually be able to see your week 1 module. And so it'll come right under here. And it will literally over here in the little box, it'll say week 1, and then the module number will be different. Don't let that confuse you. The modules are basically just kind of what we're working on at the time. And you may have 2 or 3 modules that all say like module 2.1, 2.2, right? Things like that. And that just means we're working on the same stuff, right? So for example, that will be the case in the first, the first couple modules will be, the first module is a welcome module, just basically to introduce you to the class. And then the week 2, the module for week 2 will be 2.1, where I will introduce the first project, which is the annotated bibliography. And then there'll be, in week 3, there'll be a 2.2, which will be just the rest of the discussion about the annotated bib and the final turning, the submission port for that and everything. So that's how that works. So don't let that confuse you. Just look at that box and see, and that way you know what week you're in every week, and you can use that to line up with and see what you're doing with the thesis or with the syllabus and everything if you need to. All right. So taking a look at this, the first thing you want to do is you're going to want to click and open up the welcome module, because the welcome module has all this stuff in it that you're going to want to see. I don't know why that's so tricky there. The welcome module has all these things that you're going to want to go through, and you're going to notice that everything has to be done in order. So in other words, notice this little radio button over here. That radio button will show something different when you've looked at it. So notice when I click on it, it will go in here and it will let me see the syllabus. Yes, if you have questions, check the syllabus first. There's always a good chance the question that you have might be on the syllabus. If not, then obviously you can respond or reach out to me. You can always, I want you to know completely, feel free to reach out to me for questions or help that you need. Do not hesitate to do that. But if it's basic stuff like, when is such and such due, the syllabus will help you with all that kind of stuff, right? But when you click on this here, of course, that will let you see the syllabus. And you can, of course, make that syllabus, larger size here by clicking on that so you can see it better. You can even download it if you'd like to. So that's the syllabus. Now, I'm not going to go over the syllabus because the syllabus is something that you can read. You're all big boys and girls, right? So you can read the syllabus and make sure you understand everything that's in the syllabus. Make sure you get your textbooks. I would suggest getting them both digitally if you can, because that way they're with you everywhere you go. If you get them digitally, they're with you everywhere you go. Whereas if you get hard copy, then you're only going to have it when you're carrying it with you. So that's a good idea to get them digitally. But read all of this stuff. Make sure you understand everything that it says in the in here about the office hours, about the, goodness, it's so annoying. Sorry about that. Everything that's in here about the class, about how it operates, academic integrity. Just don't cheat. That's pretty much the wrap up for that. Artificial intelligence, you cannot use artificial intelligence to write your paper. I think that's pretty much an easy assumption that you should have made before I even had to say it. You can use AI to help you, like with things like brainstorming, figuring out what you want to, what kind of stuff that you want to work on or whatever. But when it comes to actually completing your assignments, you cannot use AI. And there are telltale signs that we teachers are getting used to and being able to see that they are AI. And so if I see something that looks like AI, I'm probably going to write to you and let you know that it looks too much like AI, and I'm going to ask you to redo it so that we don't have to take it any further than that, okay? But just don't use AI for anything other than just kind of helpful stuff rather than writing your whole paper. Don't let it write your assignments for you. That would be an absolute no-no. Check all these resources out that you have available to, and then of course you'll see here the schedule of work. Now the schedule of work, the way it works here is that you can basically see everything that we're going to do. This first column has the weeks and any special notes. The second column tells you what we're doing, what we're working on, and the third column on the right tells you what's due. Okay, notice everything. It tells you everything that we're going to be working on here, and then over here you can see it's color coded. So anything in green is going to be related to having discussions or whole class activities, as you can see here and here. Those two things will always be in green. Normally you won't have two of them in 1 week. This only happened in week 2 because there's so much to do and getting you introduced to the topic and the work and everything. So now notice in blue, that's when that's exercises. Exercises, there's a thing that you need to read about how to do the exercises, which I'll touch on shortly here in a minute. But the exercises must be done in a certain way. They have to be a certain length and so forth. So you want to make sure that you understand you got to read these general exercise instructions, which tells you exactly how I expect your exercises to be written. If they don't look that way, I'm going to reject it and tell you try again. So don't do that. Just do them right in the first place by looking at that video. There's an actual video that tells you how to do this too. And that video is actually required from week 1. It's your first sort of assignment. All right. Anything in red is a major assignment. Like, at the end of week 3, your first project will be doing that's the annotated bibliography with at least 2 sources on it. So that is your first project that's due. So green, basically it's green, blue, red, and then sometimes you'll see these things that are in bold. Those are just notes. Like in this case, it's a midterm conference that you're telling you that it's mandatory, right? But most everything else is color-coded in either that red, green, or blue. So that's basically everything that we're going to do all through the week, or through the weeks, through their modules. And so make sure you understand that. All right. Now, getting back into the module, notice how it's got the radio button here that shows that I've worked on it. Now, once I've completed everything, that radio button will actually be complete, and it will have a check mark, right? So if you go in and you look at this and it doesn't have a check mark, it means you may have missed something. Maybe you didn't do something, or maybe you neglected to do something. Now, in this one here, going in, I really don't know what else it would expect me to do, other than if it thinks I'm supposed to print out or copy it or something. I don't know. So if you've done it, if you know you've done what's been there, and you could just click on it and make it marked as done, right? Okay. So then once you're finished with that, it'll let you go to the next one. See, if I weren't finished with that, well, it does let me. Okay, it does let you go to the next thing. I didn't think it would do that, but oh well. So those radio buttons, just the idea is they want you to do everything in order. And so you should do that. And notice over here it tells you how much you've gotten completed. You want to make sure that what you ideally should do is every time you see these radio buttons, you should end up having looked at everything and have all green arrows and have this full marked with green. Okay? Office hours procedures. Again, not going to read everything to you. Just realize that office hours are available, but they are going to be by request. So if you need an office hour, if you need to speak to me about something, I highly, highly encourage you to do that. Take advantage of it and let me know if you need help with something. If you have a question about it, just let me know and we can schedule a time to meet. Especially if what you want to talk about is going to be more involved than what you would want to do in an email, right? So, Then here you have course policies. You can read that yourself. It talks about the participation and the exercises and all that. A lot of this stuff is on the syllabus already, and this is just basically kind of like more, maybe in some cases, maybe more detailed or whatever. But it's a reminder, so you should still read those. Here's the general exercise instructions. You absolutely need to read these. And here's the sample. Here's even a sample paper that shows you what it should look like. So this is how your paper should be done. Look. When you write your essays and your exercises, they should all look just like this. They should have your last name and so forth. Everything should be done just like this. Now, you will have the option to use APA, but APA is not my go-to, so I don't even have anything in here as far as how to do APA. So if you want to use APA, you're kind of going to be on your own, okay? If you'd like to do APA, if you're used to it and that's what you prefer to use, you can do it. Just make sure you do it right and make sure you don't combine. See, a lot of people, the big problem I have with offering both MLA or APA, whichever you prefer, is a lot of times the students will end up having a little of both. And you don't want to do that. You want to make sure your entire paper is either one APA or the other, not a mixture of both. So you got to be careful about that. So read the general instructions about that. Read the instructions about how discussion questions and whole class activities will work. These are all must read. You've got to read these. Read about the projects. This one's important too. Encouraging you to make sure that you do multiple revisions and resubmissions so that I can give you more and more feedback until you know that your paper's great. So that's a really important one. And everybody that does this ends up with great grades. I'll tell you that right now. If you do that, if you take advantage of this one right here, I can't guarantee it, but I can promise you, you're going to have a whole lot better chance of getting a really good grade if you take advantage of this one right here. Last one here is just about participation and work completion and how that grading works. Again, all these are must read. You definitely need to read them. Okay, so this is basically all the stuff that you need to be looking at as soon as you have access to this. You should start looking at these things. Okay, so check these things out, and then in my first, if I close that up, there's also these two resources down here, which is for the course, and here you have things like supplemental readings, which we may or may not use any of those things. Don't worry about those necessarily unless you see me put them into a module. They're not really going to be for you to worry about. But there are other things here that you can find useful. There's the LibGuides. There's access. You get free access to the New York Times. So if you wanted to access the New York Times, you could use that. You could do that. And it just gives you some extra things that you could use. Here's a free antivirus software. I think it's free. And so those are some things you have as course resources. And then there's also campus resources, and that would be things like asking for librarian help, Blackboard accessibility, all this stuff here. So look at all this stuff over. Make sure you understand what that stuff's all about. And if you have questions about any of these things, please do not hesitate to ask. Okay, this is pretty much the end of this video. And so if you have questions, need help with anything, I really, really want you to understand that I am here for you. And I want to be there for you if you need help. Since this is online, obviously, we can't see each other face to face. You know, we can't meet at the end of a class, right? Things like that. So I want to encourage you, strongly encourage you, to just reach out to me if you need help with anything. Send me an email if you need to. But if you'd rather not email, then we can do a virtual thing. But you still need to send me an email to ask for the virtual meeting. But we can do that. All right? Now, the other thing that I want to point out, just so you know, is that the calendar is there for you to use. It's where you can go in and you can see where stuff's due and all that stuff. That could be useful to you, but that's up to you. Another very important thing you're going to want to make sure you understand about is the announcements, because anytime I send out announcements, they will come from there. So you'll want to make sure you keep an eye out for emails that talk about announcements. The discussions will be located in here, and you can see there's some discussions in here, but they're not available yet. Once they're available, like for 2.1, will be your first discussion, and that when that time comes, it should be available. It will be on the 31st, it looks like here. And that, of course, is when you can actually use those and complete them. You've got the grade book here, which is where you can go in and see how your grade is looking, right? And then if you want to message me, you can use this messenger. I discourage it. I really highly encourage you to actually email me. because I can't promise how quickly I'm going to get back to you if you use the messenger. Sometimes I don't see them. Sometimes I don't see the indication that I've got a message on there, or maybe I'm in the middle of something and I can't just run to my laptop or computer and go into the messages to help you right then. So sometimes it can take me longer to get back to you if you message me, right? But if you email me, no matter where I'm at, I can answer an email because I've got my cell phone or I've got something on me and I can answer emails no matter where I'm at. But if I'm not anywhere near my computer, if I'm out running around and I don't have access to my computer and you send me a message, it's going to be however long it takes me to get done with that running around and get back to it, right? So if you, especially if you have a message you'd like to have an answer back quick, I'm usually very good at getting back to you quickly if you email them to me, okay? You don't have to worry about the groups and this stuff here. This might allow you to see your own achievements, but I'm not sure if it'll work for you or not. It doesn't seem to be working for me. But I'm in student view here, so I'm not sure about how that works. But anyway, that is pretty much it. That's all you really need to worry about is these few things up here. So eCampus Ultra is not too difficult. It's not really a lot to get used to. So, as I've already said, I'll say it again. If you have questions about anything at all, please, please, please don't hesitate to reach out to me and let me know. Okay? And that will do it for this first video.